Anderson, North Dakota, Cavalier.
Oops. Okay.
It is, and my dad pastored there for, I think 2 years. Anyhow, I went to the 3rd and 4th grade there. And then he pastored in Minot for 3 years because I went to the 5th grade, 6th, and 7th. 7th was junior high, and I had that's when I had to walk 1.5 miles to go to school. Because I think they just had one junior high. The junior high was one side of a square block, and the senior high was, around the corner.
And that was in North Dakota?
That was in Minot, North Dakota.
Mm-hmm. Pretty cold walks in the winter, I bet.
What was your house like?
What was what?
Your house like?
What was your house like?
When you were a little kid, is that the right context for
Yeah.
that? Okay.
The church didn't have a parsonage, and so we rented places. We were there 3 years. We lived on Valley Street. Then we lived on 10th Street. It was a couple miles away. And then we moved to South Hill. Minot is in a kind of a valley.
Mm-hmm.
And there's north side. The Air Force is there now. They didn't have an Air Force then. But we lived on the south side. And so that's when I had to walk 1.5 miles.
I see.
Because we lived farther away.
I gotcha. So were the houses pretty small, like smaller then? Did you have 2 bedrooms and a single bath, or?
We always had just a single bath.
Mm-hmm. Bathroom at all?
Yeah. On Valley Street, I remember that's because my grandma came to visit me, and she was 80-some years old, and my dad's mother.
Mm-hmm.
I never did meet my mother's mother because she died a couple years before I was born. So my mother's sisters, older sisters, both my dad and mother were about the youngest in a large family. So my dad's father passed away when he was just about 2.5 years old. And my mother's father passed away when she was about 3 or 4 years old. When they were the youngest. My mother and dad were almost the youngest, not quite the youngest of very large families, 10, 12 children. And anyhow.
What was your school like?
Okay, we moved quite a bit. So.
Mm-hmm.
You can just pick one. What was your high school like?
Oh, in the 10th, 11th, and half of the 12th grade, I went to this the town was only about 500 or so. And so the school was one big building. And anyhow, but then my dad got a call to move back to Minot, where I lived when I was in the 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. Now I was a senior in high school, and the one pastor had to leave, and so they voted my dad to come back and pastor. And he pastored there until after I was married. That's where I got married, in Minot. And in Minot, I just went to the 2nd semester of my senior year. And they told me that they didn't let anybody graduate from their school unless they had been there for a whole year.
Mm-hmm.
And attended a whole year. So I basically had to go back to Powers Lake, where I'd gone to school 2.5 years and graduate from there. And there was just 16 in our graduating class in this little town. And I guess I was a fairly good student, but I was co-valedictorian, and I didn't know that. Had to make a speech, and a memorized speech, and I was scared to do that, but I did it anyhow.
So did you go to school back in Minot, or did you go to school in Minot, but then go back just for the graduation ceremony at your previous school?
Yes, I went. It's about 75 miles
Mm-hmm.
difference, and so we went there. I guess we spent the night with someone. I don't know what we did, but yeah, we had to go back there. The town was so little; they didn't have a football team. They didn't have enough strong guys to have a football team, but they had a basketball team, and they were good in basketball. You know, competed there in basketball.
Well, that's interesting.
Oh, and I was in the band, and they had a sousaphone, which is bigger than an E-flat bass, but it was a beat-up thing. But I played it, and the school got new uniforms that year, and we entered competition and did our marching and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
Fun. I didn't know
that
you
was
played
kinda
sousaphone.
fun.
I didn't know that either.
That
We
was
already
kinda fun.
went through what is your favorite memory?
My favorite memory of
Just, I guess, of childhood?
Yeah, I had a hard time with that question.
I'm not sure either. Favorite memory of childhood, maybe. It's pretty tough, huh?
I don't know if it's a favorite memory, but it's one that sticks in my mind. We had a river that ran through the town. Now, mine it was in a valley, you know, hills on the north side and on the south side. But there was a river that ran through that was called the Mouse River. And so we had our baptismal service in a park that the river ran through, you know. And and there was quite a few. I think I was a young teenager. And but after the baptismal service was over, I remember that some of the guys that were baptized decided to go swimming in the river. So they took off and went swimming in the river, and I thought, well, okay, that's fine, but I didn't do it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just something that stuck out in my mind. Oh, and I don't know if it was that town or another town we lived in. I took swimming lessons, but I really never did learn how to swim. I took my children, and I took you when you were little to swimming lessons, things like that. But I remember that if I got an inner tube, you know, that was and it was filled with air, and you could slip that over your head, and you could just swim in the deepest water, and it was fine. And I remember going swimming with the inner tube and doing fine.
Good.
Children's names.
Hmm?
Children's names.
Oh, children's name. Our first child was born, I thought he was going to be born in December, but he was born the 17th of November, after we'd been married about a year and, not quite a year and a half, but anyhow. And then less than 2 years later, our daughter was born. This time we had moved from. We lived in Newnan, North Dakota, and then we lived in Oklahoma City a short time, and then we moved to Texas. because he had a friend who knew of a church. It was called Port Aransas, Texas. Cheryl was born in Aransas Pass. It's just we lived on an island, Padre Island, which is 40 miles long.
This is when Grandmommy was born. She's talking about.
Yeah, she was born on the mainland, and we went to the hospital in our old car. We had to go on a causeway. Part of that was just a narrow road with water on both sides, and then there was wooden bridges part of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Later they updated it, but that's what it was when we met. And she was born, I think, 4 o'clock in the morning. And I think we got there about between 11 and 12. So we were driving to the hospital in the nighttime.
Brothers and sisters?
What?
Brothers and sisters?
Your brothers and sisters?
What are your brothers and sisters' names?
Brothers and sisters. Oh, I'm the oldest of 5 children. I told you that my mother was healed, and then I was born, and then she had 4 more. Gladys is 2 years younger than I am, and then Lawrence is, we call him Larry, is 4 years younger, and then Donald, he's 6.5 years younger than I am, and then in almost 10 years is when Wesley was born.
Alright.
Is that everything, Julia?
Nickname?
A nickname.
Do you have a nickname?
Ruth is already just 1 syllable.
Yeah. Did anybody ever call you anything other than Ruth?
Ruthie,
Ruthie,
Ruthie?
yeah.
when you were young.
And I went to an eye doctor, optometrist, a few weeks ago, and her first name was Ruth.